Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 273 for December 6th, 2022. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On today's show, the 4 FBS college football playoff teams are announced, and Deion Sanders has a new head coaching job. In this week's history lesson, we have part 3 of our conversation of the greatest offensive and defensive unit nicknames in football history. But I'm not here by myself. Across the table from me, as always, is my son, Adam.
Yep, I'm here. Happy December. We got 1 month of this year left to go.
Yeah. Boy, there's been a lot of late-breaking news today. I hope we got it all by the time we started it.
Well, we're starting late.
Yeah.
It's already dark outside.
Yeah, I know it.
But let's see how much we can get done in as little time as possible.
All right. We come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we post the entire audio portion of this show, as well as other selected videos. So let's begin today's show with Adam and the World of Football scoreboard.
That's right. Things got started off on Thursday Night Football, which saw the Buffalo Bills defeat the New England Patriots 24-10. The Patriots' lone highlight from this game has to be those wonderful, wonderful throwbacks.
Oh, they were nice.
Wearing.
Yeah. You know, you see these throwbacks and you think, why'd they ever get rid of them? And at the time, people were tired of them, and they didn't know any better. But seeing them again, I like the old throwbacks for New England.
See, I've seen what I love on Twitter is I like to subscribe to all those uniform mock-ups,
Sure.
like people making that.
Sure.
I saw a great mashup of like that color scheme and that like white helmet with like the current New England Patriots look, and I was like, you know what? They could meld those two looks together, and I think it would actually look pretty good. Like a white helmet with that Patriot. I don't even know what you call the tail instead of Patriot pad or whatever.
The current Patriot logo.
Yeah, I think that would actually work really well, and like have like the old stripe on there. I think there's some possibility there, but alas, we have to dream. All right, moving on to the early slate of games on Sunday. The Atlanta Falcons fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-16. The Denver Broncos fell to the Baltimore Ravens 10-9. And in this game, Russell Wilson, what you doing?
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson even got hurt for the Ravens in the first quarter and is apparently out for maybe 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the severity of that injury. But the Broncos could only muster 9 points, and the Ravens beat them 10-9. Like that defense for Denver, I feel so bad for. And I guess this is the 6th or 7th straight year now the Broncos will end up with a losing record in a row. Like they've just had a hard time of it since Mr. Peyton Manning left.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, the Green Bay Packers came back against the Chicago Bears 28-19. Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers, owning Chicago like he normally does.
Yeah, it didn't look that way for like 3 quarters.
Right, yeah.
He came back in the fourth quarter. But, I hated to see Green Bay win, but I don't think they're going to do much the rest of the way this year.
Yep, and with that loss, the Chicago Bears were eliminated from the playoffs.
Yep.
At 3-10.
One of two teams.
One of two teams. And speaking of that second team, and speaking of returns, Deshaun Watson returned for the Cleveland Browns to go face his old team, the Houston Texans, where the Browns got the win 27-14. Apparently, Watson even forgot he played for the Browns because he definitely threw a pass to a Texans defender at one point. But alas, with the victory for the Browns, that knocks the Texans out of playoff contention as well. So they are the second team to be eliminated. Yep. All right, and then the Detroit Lions defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 40-14 in a game that, as a Lions fan, it's been a while since we've seen just complete front-to-back assertion of not dominance, but just great, just going out there and executing football.
Yeah.
8 drives, all ending up in scores.
Yep.
No punting during the game for the first time since 2017 for the Lions.
Yeah.
They now improved to 5-7 and winners of 4 of their last 5 games. The Lions are a team a lot of people are talking about now.
Yeah. I don't
And
know.
we still can't get flexed into prime time, apparently.
Well, that might happen later on.
We'll
but,
see. No, the Colts got flexed into prime time, and the Lions still have it. This is insane.
Well, all we got to do is just keep on winning.
I thought you were going to say all we need to do is hire an ESPN analyst to be our head coach.
No, I like our head coach. I like the direction the team's going. I'm not really ready to say that the team has totally turned the corner.
I know it's hard.
But, I don't want to admit that they're a good team because the minute you do, they're going to start losing.
Right.
But they've been fun to watch lately.
And watching that game, I told you, I was like, maybe after the first couple of series, not once, not a single time, was I worried, nervous, anxious, angry, volatile. It was just chilling, watching the Lions actually control a football game.
I got all my fingernails left, and I didn't have to take my blood pressure pills this week.
Yeah,
so.
I barely sat on the edge of my couch.
Yeah, that was nice.
It was a very nice change. Very weird feeling being a Lions fan and seeing that and just being like, oh, so this is how you just win football games sometimes, huh? There's no stress, huh?
Yeah. That's how other fan bases feel. We don't get to feel that way very often.
Yeah,
We either know we're losing early or it's a nail biter all the way to the end.
It's a very weird feeling, but man,
a good feeling.
A lot of people paying attention to the Lions now.
Yep, as they should be.
Yep. And their opponent for next week, the Minnesota Vikings, defeated the New York Jets. Actually, both opponents for the next 2 weeks for the Lions. The Vikings beat the Jets 27-22. For a while there, it looked like the Vikings were dominating this. Looked like the Jets came back a little, but didn't have enough to overcome the Vikings. Then you had the Commanders and the New York Giants tie at 20 apiece. That end of that game was rough. Neither of those teams could do anything right.
Yeah, it was hard to watch. Whatever game, I don't know if it was after the Lions game.
It was right after the Lions,
They switched to that one, and we sat through that. And, this should be pretty exciting. Who's going to win in overtime? Nobody.
Oh,
God. The two teams walked off the field like, is that it?
Anytime you
Are
watch
we supposed to shake hands now? What do we do?
Anytime you watch a game that ends in a tie, that's how it ends. It's just like, that happened.
Yeah. Nobody's happy.
Yeah. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Tennessee Titans 35-10. A.J. Brown, the former receiver for the Eagles, or for the Titans rather, now playing with the Eagles, had a monstrous game against his former team. Definitely had a touchdown catch where I have no idea how he got so wide open, but he did it. And as a result of this, this is what I believe is what caused the Titans general manager to be fired earlier today. That he gave up A.J. Brown for some dumb reason to the Eagles, and now look what happened. That is my theory, because it's not like the Titans have been bad.
Yeah.
Titans have been decent.
Yeah.
And their general manager just all of a sudden fired today for what reasons we don't know, but this is the only thing I could think of.
I'm not going to argue with your opinion. You could be right. Who knows? But
how do you let a guy like that go?
Yep.
Unbelievable. All right. And then improving the Detroit Lions draft stock, the Los Angeles Rams fell to the Seattle Seahawks 23-27. We'll talk a little bit more about the Rams later on with an acquisition they just made right before we started recording.
Yeah.
The San Francisco 49ers handled the Miami Dolphins 33-17. In this game, though, Jimmy Garoppolo ended up breaking his foot.
Yeah.
And at the time, it sounded like it was a season-ending foot surgery he would need.
Yep.
But it literally just came out
in the last half hour.
Half hour. Jimmy Garoppolo will be out for 7 to 8 weeks and could potentially return for the playoffs with no surgery required.
Yeah.
That's a big assumption, thinking the 49ers could still make the playoffs. They are 8-4.
Well, if they said if his rehab goes well, he could be back.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. They got to make the playoffs first.
Sure,
in a very, very tight NFC right now,
sure.
where the Detroit Lions are surging and coming for that playoff spot.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But a lot of speculation on a different quarterback, like I said, that we'll talk about in a little bit. Let's see. Then the kryptonite of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals, have defeated them yet again, 27-24. This is the third straight time now the Bengals have defeated the Chiefs. Unbelievable.
Wow, yeah.
Think about it. This game, the AFC Championship, and like one of the last games of the regular season last year, the Bengals just have the Chiefs number for whatever reason.
Yeah.
In whatever venue.
Yeah.
So
Who knows?
congratulations, Cincinnati. For a while, I'm surprised nobody's been really talking about Cincinnati this year. They've been quietly, they were kind of floating there for a minute, but now they seem to be humming quietly.
Most people left them for dead, about a month ago because
Yeah.
of their struggles early in the season. But since then, they've been playing well.
Yes, they have. Speaking of playing well, how about the Las Vegas Raiders getting another victory, 27-20, this time over the Los Angeles Chargers. Devontae Adams, what a steal he was for this team. This dude just makes big plays, and it's fun to watch him having a ball. And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers hates seeing all of these highlights. Then let's see. Then the Sunday night game, the Dallas Cowboys were leading 21-19 going into the fourth quarter, I believe, or at least with about 30 seconds left in the third quarter, and ended up scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter to win 54-19. Unbelievable.
Who'd they beat?
They beat the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, that's right, the Colts.
54-19.
I fell asleep during this game early, like by halftime or so, and so I missed all the scoring in the last.
Yeah.
I woke up and they were already talking on the field, and I saw the score and I'm like, holy crap, I sure missed a lot.
You slept through a fireworks
I
show,
sure
apparently. And I believe, I don't know if you have this in the rundown, about the Cowboys getting fined for some more for the celebration on Thanksgiving where they jumped into the Salvation Army Bowl.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that was a story. And then finally, the Monday night game saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come back against the New Orleans Saints, 17-16. When I was watching, with 5 minutes left in the game, they were down 16-3.
Yeah.
And they came back to win this game. Tom Brady was even cussing out his punter on the sideline, and they came back and won this game.
Well, again, I fell asleep during this game too, and but I caught the tail end of the game this morning. They re-showed it like from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., and so I caught the final drive, and he scored the winning touchdown with I want to say like 20, 30, less than that, 12 seconds maybe left on the clock. It was just something else. But boy, when I was watching in the first half, he was overthrowing guys. Guys were dropping passes. It was awful. It was just awful. And then to wake up and see that he led them to a 1-point victory after that, I don't know. I think this might have been just a one-time thing. I don't know. I'm not gonna bet my money on Tampa Bay yet, but that was a shock of an ending.
Yeah. And then real quick, on by this week, the Carolina Panthers and Arizona Cardinals. And speaking of the Carolina Panthers, I guess real quick we'll just mention Baker Mayfield was released by the team and picked up by the Los Angeles Rams on waivers not too long ago.
Yeah.
So Baker Mayfield helping assure the Lions get a top 3 pick with the Rams.
Well, he better not play, and he better not play well if he does play.
Oh, boy. Oh, man, we'll be real mad if Baker Mayfield starts shelling out with the Rams.
We need that team to tank really bad.
Oh, boy. But that is it for the NFL scoreboard. Let's throw it over to Randy where, hey, very light this week with the college football scores.
Yeah. We did have all of the conference championship games that took place, and we'll start in the SEC where number 1 Georgia defeated number 14 LSU by the score of 50-30.
Oh, yeah. Georgia just had this game from the beginning. From the returned returned field goal, which you saw the highlight.
Yeah.
Baffling.
Yeah, everybody stopped.
Everybody stopped. They acted like it was an extra point.
Yep.
The LSU Tigers are jogging off the field, and what a heads-up play by that player for Georgia who, as soon as the ball was about to stop rolling, he picked it up, looked around, and took off.
With a convoy.
Yep. And then not too long later, there was an interception they got off of somebody's helmet, like the LSU quarterback threw a pass, bounced off of his own player's helmet, and landed in the arms of a Georgia player. So Georgia just had this game. Georgia is just they've been the number 1 team in the country for a reason. They are the national champions from last season for a reason. So I saw no reason why Georgia wasn't going to win this game.
No. And then in the Big Ten Conference Championship game, it was number 2 Michigan over Purdue, 43-22. That game was in Indianapolis.
But Purdue in this one, you fell asleep during this one.
Yeah.
But Purdue played pretty tough. I have to admit, that first half was a pretty scary, they're giving Michigan a run for their money.
Yeah.
And then just like the Ohio State game, a whole other Michigan team showed up and was just like, nah, we're gonna take this now. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Michigan's been a fun team to check out.
Yeah. And in the Big 12 title game, it was number 10 Kansas State upsetting number 3 TCU 31-28 in overtime down at AT&T Stadium in Texas.
What a finish to this game. You didn't
was.
catch it. I was watching it on my phone, but TCU was down for most of that game. They clawed back. They went down. They scored a touchdown, scored the 2-point conversion to tie it all up.
Yep.
They just couldn't do it in overtime.
Yep. In overtime, they had those 4 plays from the 1 yard line or something.
It was
they could not punch it in.
They couldn't punch it in.
And so they got nothing on their possession. So all Kansas State needed was a field goal after
Yep.
that, and that's exactly what they got.
Yep. And that day, it was one of the 2 upsets that made us go, uh-oh, what's the college football playoff shakeup going to look like? And,
Yeah.
I mean, we all know, but we'll get to the rest in a second.
Yeah, well, I think this game wasn't this game on Thursday night?
No, this game was
the Pac-12
Saturday.
game?
Friday night for the Pac-12.
Friday night, yeah. Yeah, so we already knew that number 11 Utah upset number 4 USC by the score of 47-24 in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
So
big.
so-
This was the
so
big
that was
shake.
that was the first shocker, and then the second shocker came on Saturday with the TCU loss.
Yeah, so everybody was sitting there wondering, uh-oh. So this clearly means Ohio State will probably get in.
Yeah.
But what about Alabama? And those of you who watched the Michigan game saw Alabama's head coach, Nick Saban,
gosh.
come on TV at halftime
That was
pleading his case
That was
as
pathetic.
a desperate beggar.
pathetic. I was embarrassed.
I was
to
embarrassed
watch
for him.
that.
That I don't know if it was his call or the university's call. I guess you got to do what you can to try
I
to
don't know.
plead to the voters, but thank God. We'll get to the
new rankings.
rankings in a second, but thank God it didn't work.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. All right, moving on. In the AAC championship game, number 18 Tulane defeated number 22 UCF 45-28. In the ACC championship
Hold on, let's
game,
not gloss over. This was Tulane's first ever conference championship title.
yeah, but I didn't like their helmets and their uniform.
Oh my God, big frickin' whoop! They won their first ever title. That is something to be celebrated and acknowledged on this show. And you're gonna gloss over it because you're a petty fashionista.
You're the one that follows the different football fashion websites and whatnot.
Dude, it's great.
I don't do
I'm not
that.
saying there's a good uniform, but hey, you won your championship. Who cares?
Okay.
Congratulations, Tulane.
All right, moving on. In the ACC title game, number 9 Clemson over number 23 North Carolina, 39-10. Conference USA, it was the University of Texas San Antonio over North Texas, 48-27. That game was at the Alamo Dome. The Mountain West, it was Fresno State over Boise State on that blue field up in Boise, and where they lost at home, 28-16. In the MAC championship game at Ford Field, it was Toledo over Ohio by the score of 17-7. In the Sun Belt Conference, it was Troy over Coastal Carolina, 45-26. And that's it for the conference championship games. So the semifinal games are set up. I guess I got to flip down here because I had this actually later on. But the 4 finalists. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the Heisman Trophy.
Wow.
Do I
Way to
have that?
organize your notes, Randy.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at the.
So hold on. So you were looking at. Oh yeah, you didn't even have that as a story.
Yeah. No.
Way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, your top 4 teams were announced Sunday night, and not too much of a shocker, but we will have number 1 still remains Georgia. Number 2 remains Michigan. Number 3 remains TCU despite the loss.
Mm-hmm.
But number 4 now, the Ohio State University, making an appearance back in the game. And you know what? Bring it on. Better than Alabama. I'll give it that.
Yeah. So this sets up in the semifinal games on both of these on December 31st. In the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, it's going to be number 1 Georgia versus number 4 Ohio State. That's going to be in Atlanta. And the same night at the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona, it's going to be number 2 Michigan versus number 3 TCU. I think those are both going to be a couple of real good matchups.
Real good games. But while everybody, I'm pretty sure, is going to assume Georgia will win this game, there is a part of me, a big part of me, that really wants the chaos of Ohio State versus Michigan for a national championship. I want it so bad that, I mean, we all thought that the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry was vitriolic and gruesome now as a normal rivalry where they just play at the end of the year. Imagine a neutral site game between these two for the second time in a year for a national championship. This will be the game of all games in the game.
Championship?
Chocolate chip championship, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But the national championship, like, can you fathom a Michigan-Ohio State national? You see a sea of maize and blue and a sea of scarlet and whatever their other color is, scarlet and gray, in some neutral site stadium, which is where's the national championship being played this year?
Oh, that's at SoFi Stadium.
At SoFi Stadium. So can you imagine
That
all
would be
these
awesome.
Midwesterners flying out to the West Coast to give these pompous SOBs, like probably the nicest group of Midwesterners flying out there, but for the most intense, just we're here to win a game and we're gonna be snarky jerks till we win it. Like I want it. I want it all. I would, if I could be there at that game for the game, I would go to the game. Because this, like I said, this would be the game to end all of the games.
Yeah.
Michigan winning 2 straight, against Ohio State. Winning 1 at home last year finally.
Season, yeah.
Last year beating them finally for the first time in many, many years.
Right.
Then you go into Ohio State this year and they just beat them in their own house.
Yeah.
And then this year you beat them on a neutral site. So like if Michigan could say, we've literally beat you in 3 different locations 3 straight times, like that puts a whole different spin on this rivalry. Yeah, you might have won the last 15 years or whatever it's been that they've won straight, Ohio State. But now Michigan to have that claim to where we've literally kicked your butt in all 3 locations, I want it. I want it so bad, but I don't think George is going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to wait until December 31st to see how this shakes out anyway.
I'm even nervous that TCU could actually upset Michigan.
Well,
that TCU team I saw, I think they could compete against
both
Michigan.
of these matchups are really good. So we'll just have to wait till New Year's Eve and find out. Okay, let's move on. The FCS playoffs were going on. It was round 2 this week. You had South Dakota State over Delaware, 42-6. And you had North Dakota State over Montana, 49-26. And then there was the Southwest Athletic Conference Championship game between a couple of HBCU schools. Jackson State over Southern, 43-24. And this was played in Jackson, Mississippi. Back-to-back SWAC titles for Jackson State. And after the game, it was announced that head coach Deion Sanders is going to be taking the job at Colorado. And he's taking his son with him, or his son is deciding to go and leave with him. Quarterback Shadur Sanders is going to be going there. And I guess there's several other players that want to transfer to stay with Coach Prime. So it should be interesting to see what happens there in Colorado.
Hey, I've never been a fan. Like, I get it. Deion is a Hall of Fame player. And, no one can take that from him. I'm not a big fan of him, like, from being on the field, whatever. Like, I was just always kind of, I don't like Deion.
Mm-hmm.
But as a personality on TV, okay, he was kind of fun.
And he turned that program around at Jackson State.
Yet now, as a head coach, and he's only been there, 3 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is hard to believe. Like, it feels like just last year he became head coach, but it's been 3 years now.
Yeah.
Turned this program around. I am actually very curious to see what he does as the head coach of a Division I NCAA school. Going from an HBCU school, that's a big old jump. You know how many coaches have to really shell out to go from like even a MAC school to a Power 5 type of school.
Right.
So this is going to be interesting. I'm actually
Brian Kelly did it.
He did, but I'm pulling for Deion to actually pull this off. Like this should be a lot of fun. I'm very curious to see what he's going to do.
Yeah, he had that team undefeated this year and winning a second SWAC title.
Yeah.
So, good for him.
So whatever he's doing clearly works, and I'd love to see. Give him a couple years. I'll give him 2 or 3 years to see if he can turn this program around. But I think he's going to attract a lot of players now. Like players are going to want to play for Deion Sanders.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Good luck to him in there in Colorado. All right, moving on in the Division II playoffs, it was their quarterfinal round. Ferris State defeated Grand Valley State 24-21. It was Shepherd over Indiana of Pennsylvania 48-13. Colorado School of Mines over Angelo State 42-24. And West Florida over Wingate 45-14. And the Division III playoffs were also in their quarterfinal round. Mount Union over Delaware Valley 22-6. North Central of Illinois over Ithaca, 48-7. Mary Hardin Baylor over Bethel of Minnesota, 41-28. And it was Wartburg over Aurora, 45-17. Now we move down to the semifinal round in the NAIA, and it was number 12 Kaiser of Florida upsetting number 2 Grandview of Iowa, 38-21, and number 3 Northwestern of Iowa over number 5 Indiana Wesleyan, 38-7. That sets up the 67th NAIA championship game on December 17th with number 12 Kaiser versus number 3 Northwestern at Durham County Memorial Stadium in Durham, North Carolina. So a couple weeks and we'll get the championship game for the NAIA. And then the National Junior College Athletic Association was their Division III championship game this week, and number 2 DuPage upset number 1 North Dakota SCS by the score of 14-12. So congratulations to DuPage. In Division I, this was their semifinal rounds, and it was number 1 Hutchinson over number 4 Coffeyville, 38-7. And in the other semifinal game, it was number 3 Iowa Western upsetting number 2 Northwest Mississippi, 19-9. So that sets up the Division I championship game on Wednesday. I don't know why it's on a Wednesday, but it's Wednesday.
You said 19-9, 19-3.
19-3. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. In the Division I championship game on a Wednesday, December 14th, number 1 Hutchinson versus number 3 Iowa Western. That game is going to be on ESPNU, so you can actually check that out on TV, and that game is going to be played in Little Rock, Arkansas. And that is it for this week's World of Football scoreboard. You've been staring at your phone. Is there more breaking news coming?
Not stuff that you care about.
This isn't more movie crap, is it?
No, there's some football
Marvel
stuff, but it's a couple of stories that we don't really cover here.
Okay.
But what about this fun stat? In 2016, Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy. In 2022, Stetson Bennett is a Heisman Trophy finalist. They were both born in 1997.
That's an interesting fact.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
If that's true.
Mm-hmm.
NFL memes always posting stuff.
Okay, moving on to some NFL news. Of course, we already talked about the two teams that have been officially eliminated from the playoff this year in the NFL, Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. Now, going into their game last week between the Bears and the Packers, they were both tied for the most all-time wins in NFL history. And after the Packers win, Green Bay now leads over Chicago for the first time ever with 787 wins to 786 wins for Chicago. Chicago has led the league in all-time wins since 1921.
Yeah, there's a great graphic that was put out there by the Pro Football Hall of Fame
yes.
that you retweeted.
Yep. A moving graphic that showed who was in the lead every year.
I mean, I've seen stuff like that before, but it's always a great reminder to kind of see through the years.
Yeah, I'm a visual kind of guy. I love graphs like that it slowly creeps across the screen, and Chicago's at the very top all the way until the very last game, and then they flip with Green Bay. So that was an awesome graphic. Yeah, that was great. Okay, we're going to move on to a little college football news. The Rose Bowl is now on board, and the 12-team college football playoff will begin after the 2024 season. The Rose Bowl agreed to amend its contract for the 2024 and 2025 seasons to make it part of the playoffs. That was the last hurdle the college football playoff officials needed to clear in order to triple the size of the playoffs. And I was reading, I didn't write this down, but I was reading that the Rose Bowl was dragging their feet because they wanted to maintain the Big Ten, Pac-10 setup if on years when they weren't going to be getting a playoff game.
Yeah.
Basically the playoff committee said no, and they said, well, what about they were asking for something else, and the committee said no. So basically they had to give up everything that they wanted in order to be a part of the playoffs, which is going to be pretty lucrative. But I hated to see that. I love the traditional Rose Bowl matchups, and it's just under this new playoff system, it's not going to be that way. Under the new system, the playoff field will be composed of the top 6 conference champions among the 10 active conferences plus 6 wild card teams, guaranteeing a spot for a group of 5 champion. The top
or team. It doesn't really say a champion, but a group of 5 team.
Right. The champion from one of those group of 5 conferences is going to get an automatic bid. The top 4 conference champions will get their byes in the quarterfinals, with the remaining 8 teams playing the first round games at the home stadiums of the highest seeded players.
Teams.
Yeah.
Words are hard, Randy.
The New Year's 6 bowls, which are comprised now of the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and the Peach Bowl, will cycle through hosting quarterfinals and semifinal games, with each bowl getting a semifinal game once every 3 years. So, they're part of the rotation, part of the system now, and
I don't know. I still think the Rose Bowl should be one of your semifinal games, like no matter what. But whatever. If this is what it takes to get a bigger playoff field, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
We've been wanting it for a while, but here it is. It's not too far down the road, and ensue the 12-team chaos. Bring it on.
Yeah, I still have some problems with the way this is set up. You know, what did they say? The top 6 conference champions among the 10 conferences there altogether. So you get your Power 5 plus one other one. So I'm not happy with that. I think it should be all 10 conferences will get an automatic bid, and then you only have 2 other.
Well, I can see why you do that, because look at who just won the MAC conference.
True, but hey, you know, they should all be equal, and that would be the fairest way. No, they still want to stack the deck with the best teams. Yeah. So they're throwing a bone to the.
But they're throwing a bone for like a team in one of those smaller conferences, like the year Western went undefeated and
who wound up in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, who ended up eventually going to the Cotton Bowl. So if something like that ever happened, or like the UCF team that was very good a couple years ago, or Coastal Carolina from finally at least letting the 1 or 2. We'll see how many of these teams can sneak in, but so until the playoff field is expanded beyond that, you can't have 10 guaranteed spots. And like I said, the Power 5 will always be its own thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there need to be 2 different divisions, but
or 2 different playoffs.
2 different playoffs,
Power 5
because,
and the group of 5.
Like I said, a gold and a silver. I've been preaching it for a while, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yes. I'm glad they are going to 12 teams, because this 4-team thing was a joke. Yeah, always has been. Never happy with that, but we'll see what happens in the years to come.
We will definitely see.
All right, Trent Dilfer has been named the head coach of the University of Alabama Birmingham. He played in the NFL from 94 to 2007. He played with the Bucks, Ravens, Seahawks, Browns, 49ers, and he's been a TV analyst ever since, but he did win Super Bowl 30 with the Ravens. I don't know what kind of pedigree he's got to be a head coach there. But
he was doing high school coaching, wasn't he?
I don't know. So we'll see how Trent Dilfer does compared to Deion Sanders. We'll see who has a better record at the end of next year.
Let's not get too crazy. Deion's got a little more experience, I think, in the college game.
Yep. And the 4 finalists for the 2022 Heisman Trophy have been revealed. That came out on Monday, just yesterday. And they're all quarterbacks. So the 4 quarterbacks for Heisman Trophy consideration are USC's Caleb Williams, Ohio State's C.J. Stroud, TCU's Max Duggan, I guess it's Duggan, and Georgia's Stetson Bennett. So those are your 4 Heisman finalists.
All I got to say is boo. Boo, boo, boo. Like, I saw somebody post, and I can't tell if it was a joke or not, but that the Heisman Trophy is getting redone to look like a upright quarterback throwing the ball, because this is getting ridiculous. They can't be all the best player. There's Michigan's running back, Corum, got snubbed, and I'm sure there are several other great players. I'm tired of this being a quarterback only award.
It seems
now.
like the way it is. It's either a quarterback or running back. Very few defensive players at all.
But we've had a wide receiver in the last few years win it. So I don't know. I think the Heisman voting has got to change a little bit. Maybe there's got to be, the top 3 players from each position. Give me a pool of 30-something guys to vote from, because I'm serious. Like, I'm sick of it being just a quarterback award, because, you have a guy who plays quarterback who can run the ball. Like, doesn't make him the best player. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel weird about it. Are they really the best player? I don't know. And like, I feel like there's some talented linemen and interior defensive players and corners that, like, I'm sure there's got to be otherworldly stats for, like, give me Pro Football Focus College Edition. I'm sure you could find some of these kids who are way better than, a quarterback. It's just, the quarterback's such a flashy position. It's a tough thing because you want to see it, but it's just, I hate always giving them the accolades.
Well, on our website, theworldoffootball.com, I do have a list of Heisman Trophy winners, and you can take a quick look at that. I mean, you don't have to do this right now. I'm saying
too late.
The people listening can look at that.
I forgot we had a website.
Yeah, and you can look down the list and see just how many have been quarterback. Out of the last 10 or 20, how many have been quarterbacks that have won the Heisman Trophy. So, I mean, it's all right.
It says
there.
your website's been taken down.
Oh, great.
Wow, way to go. Heisman Trophy winner. So let's see here. So in the last few years, let's see. Last year, Bryce Young, which you totally misspelled, by the way, as I immediately look at your...
Did I?
Yep. Go and check it out, everybody, before he changes it. Bryce Young, quarterback, 2021. Devontae Smith, wide receiver, 2020.
Okay.
And then 4 years of quarterbacks. And then 2015, Derrick Henry, running back. And then 5 more years of quarterbacks. Then a running back got it. Then 3 years of quarterbacks. And a running back got it. Then 5 more years of quarterback. Hey, then we had back-to-back running backs win it.
Ooh.
Then Charles Woodson won it back in '97 as a corner. So, boy.
It's been heavy on the quarterbacks for the last 20 years. So,
yeah, it has. Quick, who won the Heisman Trophy? And let me just pick a random. 1990.
1990. Let's see, Barry Sanders was 89 or 88. I don't know.
I'll give you one hint. He was a BYU player, drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
Steve Young?
Played for the Detroit Lions at one point, but...
Andre Ware?
No, he was 89.
Oh.
Ty Detmer.
Ty Detmer.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks for embarrassing me.
You're welcome. And, go fix Bryce Young on here.
Let's see. Peyton's Places, Season 3, Episode 6 on ESPN+. This week's episode was pretty interesting. It was called Flight of the Mayflowers, and it told the story of how the Colts left Baltimore in the middle of the night and moved to Indianapolis. So, they talked to the guy that had been working, that still works for the Colts now, and he was like an equipment manager or somebody. I forget exactly what he did, but he was with the Colts for that move also. So he had firsthand knowledge of everything that happened, and they showed a lot of great footage of the Mayflower trucks going away in the middle of the night in a snowstorm and everything. And what I didn't know when I watched this was that the government there in Maryland was trying to pass a law that night to stop the team from moving. That's why they moved in the middle of the night, because if this law had been passed in the Congress, they would not have been able to move. So they got out of town before Congress could do anything about it.
I never heard that aspect of it.
Yeah, I did not know that. I mean, I've read books on this. And
there's been other videos and features on this.
Yeah,
and I've never heard that aspect.
And that was the first time I had heard that, but that was interesting. Let's see. Arena Football TV. I still haven't seen any new episodes in the last couple of weeks, but do check them out. They've got a lot of great arena football games. You might recognize some players that you've heard of before, maybe started in the NFL or went on to the NFL from the Arena League. So check out Arena Football TV on YouTube. And we're going to move on to today's birthdays. A couple of quarterbacks. Oh, it's always quarterbacks around here. The first quarterback whose birthday is today is Otto Graham. Born on this date in 1921, died in 2003 at the age of 82. He played his college football at Northwestern, and was selected with the 4th overall pick in the 1944 NFL Draft by our Detroit Lions. However, he signed with the Cleveland Browns of the All-America Football Conference while he was serving in the military during World War II. He played his entire 10-year career with the Browns from 1946 to 1955, and took that team to a championship game every single year, 10 straight years. And he won 7 of them. I think the only 3 he lost were all against the Detroit Lions. So, what an incredible run. He was and I had forgotten this, but he was also the head coach of the Washington Redskins for 3 seasons from 1966 to 1968. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1965.
Oh, so he was inducted and then he became a head coach? Interesting.
Well, that doesn't sound right.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
well,
he was.
maybe-
Yeah, he was done as a player in '55. So yeah, it would have been 5 years afterwards. So yeah, Pro Football Hall of Fame, 1965. Yep. And then the other quarterback is one I'm sure you'll know. Quarterback Johnny Manziel turns 30 years old today, a.k.a. Johnny Football. Played his college football at Texas A&M. He was the 2012 Heisman Trophy winner as a freshman. And he was the 22nd overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft by the Cleveland Browns. Only played for the Browns for 2 seasons, 2014 and 2015. And then he went up to Canada, where he played 1 season, but he played for two teams that season. He started out with the Montreal Alouettes and then got traded to the Hamilton Tiger Cats in 2018. And then in 2019, he played for the Memphis Express of the AAF before that league folded. And since then, he's been playing for the Zappers of fan-controlled football. We've watched some of those games.
He just popped up somewhere recently. I forget where. He was just we were just watching something where Johnny Manziel showed up.
Yeah, I don't remember what that
Something
was.
I think it had something to do with college football. Probably some Heisman thing. I don't remember.
Could be. Okay, obituaries. This is where we take a moment to honor those who've made the world of football a better place. The first obituary is that of John Hadel, a quarterback in the NFL and the American Football League for 16 seasons. He's passed away at the age of 82. Hadel played college football at Kansas and was selected with the 10th overall pick in the 1962 NFL Draft by the Detroit Lions. He was also selected in the 3rd round of the 1962 American Football League Draft by the San Diego Chargers. He signed with the Chargers and played for the team from 1961 to 1972, winning an AFL title in 1963. He also played for the Los Angeles Rams in 1973 and 1974, but was traded to the Green Bay Packers during the 1974 season. He played in Green Bay in 1974 and 1975, and he finished his playing career with the Houston Oilers in 1976 and 1977. After his playing career, Hadel went on to coach. He started out as an assistant coach in college at Kansas from 78 to 81, and then he was a coach in the NFL with the Los Angeles Rams in 1982, the Denver Broncos in 1983, and he was the head coach of the Los Angeles Express of the United States Football League in 1984 and 1985. Hadel was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1994.
All right, our second obituary is that of Brad William Henke. I believe that's how you say his last name. A nose tackle in the NFL for 1 season, has passed away at the age of 56. Henke played college football at Arizona and Iowa State and was selected in the 4th round of the 1989 NFL Draft by the New York Giants. However, he was released by the Giants and signed with the Denver Broncos. Due to lingering injuries, he played very little in his 1 NFL season, but he did play in Super Bowl 24 against the San Francisco 49ers. He then went into acting and played a corrections officer in the Netflix show Orange is the New Black, and also had a part in the movie Draft Day. Now, I've seen both of those things. I'm trying to picture him.
Well, I don't remember him from a Draft Day, and I don't watch Orange is the New Black, but I know
watched-
you've seen it.
Yep, I watched
They
Orange.
they gave the name of his character, but he was a corrections officer at this women's prison or something.
Oh,
They gave the
okay.
character's name. I didn't write it down here,
There are
but
quite a few corrections officers in that show, so...
I thought you might know.
Actually, you know what? If it's who I'm thinking of, let me just pull up his picture real quick. I think he was also in some other movies I've seen.
Yeah, he's been in other stuff. I just listed these two for time.
Yeah.
But while you're looking at
Okay, no, I've seen him before. I know
okay.
who it is.
All right. Okay. So our final obituary is that of Al B. Miller, an offensive lineman in the NFL for 9 seasons. He has passed away at the age of 84. B. Miller played college football at Syracuse and was selected in the 7th round of the 1961 NFL Draft by the St. Louis Cardinals. He was also selected in the 7th round of the 1961 American Football League Draft by the Buffalo Bills. He signed with the Bills and played his entire career in Buffalo from 1961 to 1969. He won 2 AFL titles with the Bills in 1964 and 1965. Okay, and that's it so far. Going to move on to this week's history lesson, unless you run across anything that we need to mention before we do the history lesson.
Yes, the Rams were the only team to put in a waiver claim on Baker Mayfield.
Really?
Per a source from Field Yates, yes.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's move on to our history lesson, and this is part 3 of our discussion of the greatest offensive and defensive unit nicknames in football history. And the first one on our list this week is the Fearsome Foursome. You've heard of the Fearsome Foursome,
Of course. Every football fan should have heard of the Fearsome Foursome.
Mainly the LA Rams of the 1960s and 70s. They featured Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones, Lamar Lundy, and Rosie Greer. The Detroit Lions, the New York Giants, and the San Diego Chargers also used the Fearsome Foursome name for their defensive unit front fours also, but the Rams unit was the best known and most popular. When Rosie Greer sustained a career-ending injury and retired in 1967, the team traded with the Detroit Lions to get Roger Brown to replace him. The Lions' Fearsome Foursome was made up of Alex Karras, Roger Brown, Darius McCord, and Sam Williams. So he went from one Fearsome Foursome group
to the Fearsome
Foursome group with the Rams. Yeah, so he played for 2 groups known as the Fearsome Foursome. So good for him. All right, the next nickname on our list is the Hogs. The Washington Redskins had a group known as the Hogs. There was their offensive line of the 1980s and the early 1990s. They got the nickname after their offensive line coach, Joe Bugle, referred to them as a bunch of hogs one day during training camp. The group helped pave the way for 3 Super Bowl titles. Beginning in 1983, a group of male fans also dressed up like female hogs in the stands and called themselves the Hogettes. You remember seeing them in the fans. They were very popular.
Oh, yeah.
They also did a lot of charity work, the Hogettes did, and they raised over $100 million for local charities in the Washington, D.C. area over 30 years, and alas, they disbanded in 2013.
What?
30 years of being a Hogette, wearing a pig nose and wearing a dress and a big sun hat and whatever.
You couldn't pick up an NFL book for many years there growing up, for me at least, without seeing the Hogettes at some point, like as part of the crazy fans montage you always find.
Yeah.
Because they always got what outrageous things fans wore dressed up, and the Hogettes were always one of them.
Yeah. They weren't just fans of stand. They were doing community charity work
Good for them.
based on their popularity, and good for them. All right, the next nickname is the No Name Defense. This was used by the Miami Dolphins. During the Dolphins' Super Bowl years in the early 70s, their defense was nicknamed the No Name Defense because the players on the offense were getting all the attention. So, of course, they had a No Name defense. But whoever they were, they helped lead the team to a perfect season in 1972.
Yeah.
So that was a very good name, and hopefully kind of brought some attention to some of the defensive players. I mean, they had to be a good defensive unit, even though people didn't know who they were.
They're so good they didn't need a name.
That's right. And this next one is one I really like. I heard about it a long time ago, but I didn't know much about it.
Never heard this one.
The Grits Blitz.
Nope.
This was the Atlanta Falcons of the 1977 season. They were led by defensive backs coach Jerry Glanville. The idea was to blitz the other team as much as possible to compensate for their lack of talent on the defensive side of the ball. So they were blitzing all the time. Sometimes as many as 9 players were sent on a blitz against either the offense or special teams, during a punt or field goal. The Falcons finished that season with a somewhat disappointing 7-7 record, but the defense was first in the league in several statistic categories, including the fewest points allowed, the fewest passing yards allowed, the fewest first downs allowed, the fewest rushing touchdowns allowed, and the most forced fumbles. So pretty good for a defense that supposedly didn't have any talent on it.
But to only go 7-7, how bad was that offense?
Well, yeah, I mean, it takes
that
both.
sounds like the Denver Broncos right now, like a great defense, but that offense ain't doing nothing for them.
Yeah, while I was researching this, I mean, I'd heard of the Grits Blitz, but I didn't know much about them, and I was doing some research on the internet like I always do, and I ran across an article, in the Pro Football Researchers Association magazine called The Coffin Corner from 1998 that was written by Mark Speck. And so this was a great help in putting this little profile of the team together. And Mark Speck is the guy that wrote Nothing But a Brand New Set of Flat Tires, the sad, sorry saga of the 1974 Detroit Wheels of the World Football League. This was a great book. Mark has written several books, and I own most of them, but haven't gotten around to reading them all yet. But I have read this one about the Detroit Wheels, and this was awesome. And when I saw Mark's name on it, I said, boy, thank you, Mark, for putting this article together about the Grits Blitz back in 1998, because I found it in no time when I was doing a quick search for it, and it was very helpful. So thanks a lot to Mark Speck. And finally on our list this week, the greatest show on turf. You were there for all of this.
This was one of the greatest things to happen to football.
Yeah. The St. Louis Rams offense from 1999 to 2001 earned the nickname because of their powerful offense. They scored more points in a span of 3 seasons than any other team in league history. And it didn't hurt that they won Super Bowl 34 behind quarterback Kurt Warner.
I mean, it wasn't just, Kurt. It was throwing to Isaac Bruce,
right,
throwing to Torrey Holt.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of some other guys. I think like Ricky Proell was part of that receiving team. Then you had Marshall Faulk at running back. I think Orlando Brown was an offensive lineman for the team. So obviously you need good blocking to create running holes. I mean, Marshall Faulk was a dual threat catching and running.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that whole offense, and I found a great picture of them, and I put it on the graphic for this week. So, man, yeah, I remember when they were just starting off that first year. They were getting red hot with Kurt Warner, and they were putting up points. They came to Detroit that 1999 season, and everybody was thinking the Rams had that one in the bag, but the Detroit Lions snuffed them out that week. It was great seeing us derail the greatest show on turf, and of course they went on. They won the Super Bowl that year, but I mean, what a great story of that team. And obviously they just had the movie American Underdog come out, mainly about Kurt Warner, but you get to see some of the greatest show on turf in that. And so what a fun team to watch there for a couple of years. Just like how are they going to score? I remember them scoring so much. It was just always so fun kind of watching them. Unless it was against your team, then it wasn't so fun.
And we were somewhat aware of Kurt Warner, when he came to the Rams because of his past in the Arena Football League. So we kind of knew who he was, but and we knew the story about how he took a couple of teams to the Arena Bowl championship. Didn't win either one of them, but that's where he got his start, and then wound up with the St. Louis Rams. So yeah, a great story, a great team, a great nickname, the greatest show on turf. So to recap, this week we talked about the greatest show on turf. We talked about the Grits Blitz, the no-name defense of the Dolphins, the Hogs from the Washington Redskins, and the Fearsome Foursome, used by at least three different teams, but most famously by the Los Angeles Rams. All right, and we're going to move on to the upcoming events calendar. December 10th, this Saturday, is the 123rd playing of the Army-Navy game in Philadelphia. That game is going to kick off at 3 p.m. Also that day, the 88th Heisman Trophy will be awarded this Saturday night. One of those 4 quarterbacks we talked about is going to win a Heisman. Saturday, December 31st, you've got your semifinal games. You've got the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between Georgia and Ohio State. And that same night, it's going to be in the Fiesta Bowl, Michigan and TCU. And the winners of those games are going to meet on January 9th in the College Football National Championship game at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Oh, then after that, there's a little old game called Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona, that will be played on Sunday, February 12th. And that is everything I had for this week's show. Anything else?
All good.
Okay.
Man, we packed a lot in this week.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. Even though, like you said, there weren't a whole lot of scores to talk about, at least at the FBS level. The lower levels, they're into their semifinals, some are in their third round. But yeah, everything is winding down, and be less and less scores to talk about each week here for a while. But it's all exciting, and looking forward to a great month of playoff action.
Oh, man, and then the NFL, of course, reaching their last 6 weeks. So, man, everything's going to be heating up there, too. So
stay tuned to see what happens next. All right, Well, that's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we have done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com. That's that website that Adam didn't know existed.
What?
For news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and a list of all the Heisman Trophy winners are on there, too. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
You can also go to Facebook and like the World of Football there and follow us. We post a lot of cool stuff there, but we also post a lot of cool stuff on our Twitter. Mainly, Randy has mastered the art of the retweet button.
That's
so
right.
go follow us there at TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this very podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we post the full audio version of this podcast. You can find that by going to The World of Football Kalamazoo, do a search. We have a handle. We got to probably put that in the notes. The URL with the handle is just at World of Football.
At The World of Football on Twitter.
YouTube.
All right.
I'm talking. So it's youtube.com/ and then you use the @ symbol.
Yes.
The World of Football. I believe we were the first ones to hurry up and snag that name there. So that's another way to reach us. So subscribe. Go like our videos or put thumbs down. Any sort of interaction actually helps us out. So if you don't like us, give us a thumbs down. It still helps us out. Leave a comment. We always enjoy interacting with people. Of course, mainly the picks videos is what's getting a lot of people talking to us, which is fun. And then, we enjoy any football conversation that you guys want to come be a part of.
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than the two guys in this room now.
Well, maybe Greg James might actually like. He's got that Japanese football over there, and
no, he doesn't
likes
like
Canadian
more.
football.
We like more. I'm sorry.
Are you sure?
We still like more.
Greg, I need you and Randy to both compile a list, and put the numbers on the side.
Hush.
All the leagues that you enjoy.
Hush up.
And I want to compare the two, please. This is your guys' homework assignment.
I don't do homework anymore.
What are you talking about? What's this podcast if not a homework assignment?
Oh, that is kind of true.
There you go. Adam wins. Book it.
Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm always right.
And we'll see you next week.